The air was crisp that summer morning in Colorado, the kind of air that makes you feel alive. I'd come here from Iowa with my friend Sergio seeking adventure, something beyond the flat landscapes we were used to. He had family here and had been here before, but for me, this was new territory. You ever been whitewater rafting? He asked. I hadn't, but the thought of it, the roaring rapids, the rush of water, the unpredictability of the ride, it excited me. We woke up early, packed our gear, and made our way to the river. When we arrived, the sound of the water crashing against the rocks sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. This was it. After gearing up with vests and paddles, we met our guide, a seasoned rafter with a calm but commanding presence. He walked us through the safety protocols, the importance of teamwork, and how to navigate the rapids without getting swallowed whole. All right, he said, scanning the group. Sergio and Blair, back of the raft with me. You'll help me relay my calls to your sides. Communication is everything out here. I had been canoeing my whole life, so I felt confident. I could give clear directions. I could read the water, but this was different. We launched. The morning was pure exhilaration. The raft bucked and twisted as the rivers pulled us forward, but we worked as one, paddles slicing through the water, voices echoing across the rapids. By midday, we reached a sandbar where other rafters and guides were resting. We pulled our raft onto shore, sat down to eat, and shared stories with strangers who, for that day, were teammates. Then, something caught my eye. A lone rafter heading down the river. At first, I didn't think much of it. A few minutes went by, but then, a call crackled through the guide's radios. Guide overboard. Repeat, guide overboard. Everything shifted in an instant. Our guide shot up, eyes locking onto the river ahead. We weren't just on an adventure anymore. This was a rescue. Come on, let's go, he said. We ran to the raft, shoved off, and surged into the water. The rapids had picked up, churning with the energy that made it clear this was not going to be easy. The guide barked orders. Left side, forward, right side, back. Sergio and I commanded with force, our voices cutting through the roar of the river. Left forward, right back. The raft twisted and shot forward like a spear slicing through the chaos. Then we saw him. Clinging to the backside of a massive rock, half submerged, was the missing guide. The water was relentless, slamming against him, trying to pull him under. His raft was long gone. He had nothing left but sheer will. We had one shot. The guide adjusted our angle, reading the currents like a master strategist. Paddle, hard! We drove our paddles into the water with everything we had. The raft surged forward, 10 feet away. 5. The guide reached out. The moment our raft touched the rock, we grabbed him. He was shaking, exhausted, but still holding on. Together, we pulled him in, a breathless, soaking mess of a man who had just fought the river and nearly lost. We saved a life that day. We didn't celebrate, not at first. We just sat there, breathing, hearts pounding, the weight of what just happened sinking in. That day, I learned something about myself, about life. Life, like a river, is unpredictable. It'll throw you into chaos when you least expect it. And when that moment comes, you have two choices: panic or fight. But in that fight, you will never make it alone. You need a team, clear voices in the storm, and that will paddle forward. And sometimes you might be the one pulling someone else from the rapids. But warriors aren't just the ones who fight for themselves. They fight for others. Welcome to the 1000 Podcast, a warrior's journey of faith, fighting, and lifelong learning. My name is Blair Perrin. I'm your host, and today is episode 4 with the question, how do you handle stress when shit hits the fan? You know, what did you think? I want to know what you thought about the story that I just shared with you. Have you been in a situation like that? Have you needed to save someone's life? Have you needed to use CPR? Were you by yourself or with a team? If you have a story, I would love to know what it was like for you. And if you would leave a comment below, I'm going to be reading those. Can't wait to just see what people have been in, the situations people have been in. You know, when my friend and Sergio isn't actually his name, but I thought Sergio was a cool name. So my friend and I, when we woke up that morning, we were not prepared. We were not expecting to have to save someone's life, that we would be in a life or death situation. We did not know that we would be placed into a role where we had to be the leader, a leader, and that we would have to work with a team to achieve a goal. Life is unpredictable, and I believe that training is so important, and that's why I train every day. I'm training, almost every day, right? But I train in multiple modalities. So whether it's martial arts, whether it's like medicine, like CPR and AED, I've trained in Okinawan karate. I've trained in capoeira. I've trained in a little bit of Muay Thai. I currently am doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Filipino martial arts, which involves knife and bolo, which is like a sword, and Kali stick fighting. All those different modalities of being able to, one, have my hands on someone, control them, knowing the extent of how far I can bring someone's limb until breakage. In the gym, it's until they tap, and you're hoping that they will tap. And then I compete because competing is so good for the heart. Can I just tell you that, man, I'm not a huge fan of competing, in a sense of I don't like being nervous. Or anxious, all day long, knowing that I'm about to go against a person that might have the mindset of, I'm going to rip off your limbs today. Like that is a whole different type of preparedness and testing of the heart. But why do I do that? Well, like, one, high level jujitsu, especially when you're in the gym, you're training over and over again. You know exactly how far a limb is going to go before it breaks. You know, when you have a rear naked choke on someone, like how much pressure that you need to put and the pressure that you need to place it in for them to be able to pass out. How long, I'm sure. And I would still consider myself really new at the sport, because some people that have been doing jiu-jitsu have been doing it for, man, like our coaches have been doing it for 15, 20 plus years. And I can't imagine what it feels like to have the body knowledge of being able to control a person like that, because it is very unique in a sense of a person that is off the streets that can come into the gym, and at my level, which I've only been training for less than 3 years, but I've also trained in wrestling for 6, so that's a lot of experience over time. But I can sometimes feel like I am just puppeteering someone else's body, and it's pretty crazy. It's pretty wild. If you watch any of the of my old videos on YouTube, there is situations where, yeah, that happens, and it's really unique. Training is important. Let's get back to it. So, training helps you be present in dire times of need. There was a time where I was in church. It was after service. It was where there was only, I think, about 100 people left in service, and they were chatting with each other because they like each other. And one of the members ran up to me, and she looked at me, and she pointed into a direction of a gentleman who His name was David. He was on staff at the church, and as was I. And he was seizing. The thing about that situation, like time seems to slow down and come to a halt when you're placed into those positions. And, it felt like a long time, but when I looked around and everyone's talking, no one is aware that they need to do anything. They're standing there. They see the situation happening, but they're not doing anything. And so I take action. I run to Dave. I look at him in the eyes, and I can see that he's crying for help with his eyes as he is shaking. And so it is my job, and it is probably because of all the training that I've done over my life, that I needed to wake up other people, and I needed to bark orders. I pointed at certain people that I knew that needed to be on my team that day. I'm like, it's like, you have no choice. You're going to be on my team. You call 911. You find an AED. You find another staff member. You, like, is there, like I'm yelling, like, is there a nurse, doctor, or paramedic in the house? And yeah, my training has helped me be in those situations and take care of things when shit hits the fan. Our ability to make quick decisions is important all of our lives, because when we wake up every day, you never know what you're gonna get. You're making quick decisions every day. Every time that you get into the car and you see the light change, you get to make a decision. Your peripheral, hopefully you're not looking at your phone, but your peripherals is scanning in front of you, watching to see if there's any cars ready to speed past you. And that's why I usually take on caution before I begin moving across lanes at a stoplight. I don't know that when it turns green, that someone else who is coming across that has seen red, but they're just like, I'm just trying to get through. If I don't take time to look to my left and my right and be aware of my situation and surroundings, I might get hit. So it is important for us to be aware of ourselves and our surroundings. Being in that situation, I was very thankful to have a guide that was ready, that was prepared. He seemed prepared, and he was ready to take action, because while we were at that sandbar, there were other rafters, there were other guides, and we all got that radio call, but no one else moved. Our guide, looked at us with confidence and was like, we're gonna be the ones that do this. We're gonna save this guy's life, and we gotta go now. And if you were the guy that fell into the water and you were holding onto a boulder for your dear life, it's a wet boulder, and you got rapids running through you. You have water being splashed in your face. It's probably really hard to breathe. And what seemed like, 3 to 5 minutes of traveling to get to that person. And we were rafting as fast as we could. Those minutes probably lasted a lifetime for that guide that was hanging on. I can't imagine. And a moment's slip up could have been his life. He could have slipped underneath the water, not knowing if he was going to come back up. But even if you did come back up, you're underneath the water. You're probably rolling. You're probably hitting other boulders or rocks. Who knows? You could have got a concussion down there. You could have not come back. That's pretty crazy. It's crazy to be in those situations. Uh, let's talk about leadership. Being a leader. A leader, you need to call the shots. You need to call the shots, and you got to be okay with missing the mark sometimes. And I say these things because leadership, we have so many different roles in leadership. One, you're a leader of yourself first and foremost. You have to lead yourself. You got to tell yourself, I need to wake up. I need to be on time for work. I need to brush my teeth. I got to make my bed. No one's going to do that for you. You got to do that for you. You have to be your own leader. But sometimes you're leading more than yourself. Maybe it's your family. Maybe you are in a managerial role at work. Maybe you are a business owner or CEO of a company. And so there's definitely levels of leadership. And you got to be okay with missing the mark sometimes. I say that because those that are following you, those that are working for you, they're trusting you, and they're trusting that you've been placed into this position to make decisions, whether it's a good one or a bad one. Like we're gonna when those decisions are made, we're gonna go through it and we're gonna see what the result is, and we're hoping that it's the best result out of the two. But also, not making a decision is still a decision. And that has its own set of consequences, being indecisive. So being a leader is learning to make decisions, and quick decisions sometimes. Okay, let's move on. So learning to adapt to your situation. Just like not being able to know that you're waking up to help save someone's life, being aware, being present in the moment that you're in is so important. We can really be distracted by our surroundings. We can be distracted by our phones and technology. I think that I even come to a place where, I like to have a earbud or headphones in my head. I like to listen to music. I love listening to podcasts. That is something I always do, but I also like to make sure that I have one ear open. And my invitation to you is to learn to be more present with your surroundings. I'm a security guard at night, and that's something that I always have to be present with. Sometimes I'm in comms, which I'm overseeing the CCTV, and I have over 100 cameras that are in front of me, and every hour I need to do 2 camera sweeps. But I'm overseeing all these cameras, and the thing about that is that I've seen each window so many times that in my peripherals I can see movement, and I need to be aware of what's happening because anything can happen at our site. I need to make sure that my patrollers are safe outside as they're roaming and making sure that different areas of our site are secure. We run into unhoused individuals. We run into people that are doing drugs. We run into people that have weapons on them, or people doing things that they're not supposed to be doing and shouldn't be on site. We want to make sure that all of our members, staff, and visitors are safe, and that's high priority. So being in the position of communications is, I think, a pretty high leadership role. I got eyes on everything that's going on, and I need to learn how to be prepared to adapt to the situation, because every situation is different, and I need to know my protocols. I need to know who to call, and I need to know the team that I'm working with and the strengths and weaknesses that they have. Um, and I need to learn how to use my team, because they're trusting me with what I see. And I'm seeing things that they don't see. They're seeing things that I don't see. It's important to be able to utilize your ability to adapt and use your team. Learning the type of leader you are is also important. Are you a dictator? Are you in charge like me? And sometimes you might have to be the one that is dictating things, but me myself personally, in most cases, I like to be a servant leader. Uh, Being able to lead by example. I want to be able to show my team that I'm willing to be out in the trenches too. That I don't want to just be behind the monitors all the time, overseeing the chessboard, for say, which it is an important role. But I also want them to know that, hey, I'm not afraid to be out there. And to make decisions. Uh, on my one-on-ones. Oftentimes, when I'm with a team of patrollers that are outside and we have to make contact with an individual, I often am the one that chooses to step forward to help de-escalate situations, or to um, one, recognize and see whether we're in danger or not. I need to be prepared. Sometimes it's the angle of my body, it's my posture, it's the tone in my voice, those things that I have practiced and am practicing. The thing about being a security guard and the qualifications of being a security guard is really low, honestly. Like, uh, depending on the company that you work for, there are a lot of people that there's a lot of people that have never trained in any martial arts. They might have their CPR card or AED card, but have never used it ever before, and have never been pressure tested. What else? There is there are just so many situations where it could go wrong. And me having been a pastor, which involves a lot of different things. It involves working with multiple teams, raising up leaders. It's learning to teach, but also to counsel. From my perspective, when I run into people, I get to see, I'm first and foremost, I'm trying to see the gold in the person. I'm trying to be understanding of a person in a crappy situation, because that's just life. That's just life. In life, any one of us, if you looked at an unhoused individual, the homeless, a lot of us are one paycheck away from being in those positions. And how would you handle yourself if if you were put onto the streets? Would you have fallen into drugs or addiction? I don't know. Like, hopefully you never have to be in a position where you have to be there, but I know that most people are really one paycheck away from being on the streets. And so I try to come from a place of empathy and, yeah, and understanding. Uh, wow. So here's an invitation to you guys. I have coming up more and more opportunities to build this thing that I hope to see come to fruition, and it's called 1 out of 1,000. And it means that I'm creating a tribe of 1,000 like-minded people that want to awaken the warrior spirit inside themselves. They're wanting to just do better in life. They want to be their own leader, but also learn how to lead other people. And that starts and begins with doing, sometimes your own heart work. I have free guides that I'm giving out, and I just want to shoot up that ad right now. Sorry to bother you, but I wanted to thank you so much for checking out the 1000 podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more like this, please subscribe and comment below how this episode made you feel. But don't stop there. You're going to want to hit that notification button because we're just getting started here. And in the next few months, I plan to drop a new episode every week until we hit 12 episodes. And that will be season 1, where we will take a week off to stop and evaluate all of the feedback for this new podcast because your input matters. And just to show you my initial appreciation, I'm dropping freebie downloads that I've created to help you, my community, begin to find your purpose in this season. If you've been feeling stuck or just needed some encouragement or direction, Blair's Guide to Discover the Reason for Being, that's the title, and part 2 called Season for the Reason, both guides will be available today. Not only that, I have one more special gift, and it's a free guide to help us learn to protect our hearts or to guard our hearts. This is something I wish someone would have told me as a young man, also great for a young lady, everybody really, but now I am giving this knowledge away to you simply because I believe you matter and you should believe so too. Thank you. Let's get back to the episode. Okay, welcome back. So as we wrap up, I just want to end with, if you know someone that could be encouraged by some of the stories or the words or the lessons that we've learned here on this podcast, if there's someone that you can think of that would like any of the episodes, please feel free to share this with them. I am looking forward to building this community of 1,000 meaningful relationships, 1,000 warriors that want to do the work inside themselves to become better people this world needs. And so, yeah, this is the 1000 podcast. Please check out my links below. Check out my link tree, the website, and I hope that you have gotten some value out of this because, there's nothing more important than your time. And so for you to take time out of your day to visit me, to listen to what I have to say, I thank you at the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much for that. Until next time, I'm really excited for my next episode. I think you're going to like it too. We are going to be feeling the warrior from the inside out, from his eyes, and that warrior is Kakarot or Goku. So if you are a Dragon Ball Z fan, nerd, geek like me, I think you're gonna like that next episode. So this is the 1000 podcast. My name is Blair Perrin. Peace